In this video, we're going to build a very simple algorithmic trading bot that we are going to use to make an automated trading strategy in a paper trading account. Now, I would be lying if I said, hey guys, I found a way to print money and I'm gonna just share it freely on the internet, and I wouldn't really believe anyone that says something like that. So what we're doing in this video is just making a basic strategy that I have not confirmed at all whether it would actually work to generate profit, just as a proof of concept that we can build a bot, get it to implement the rules that we want it to implement, and execute the trades that we want it to execute. And then what I'll probably do based on what I did here is, offline off of the videos, try to test out some different rules and see if I can actually find anything that really does work. And you can bet if I do find something that really does work and generates a ton of money, I will not be sharing it freely on the internet. I will be living on my own island at that point. If you want to follow along with me in this tutorial, you should go ahead and click the link in the description that says to sign up for Datalore. So that'll take you to this page right here. And you're going to see an option that says cloud free, get started for free. So feel free to click on that and then just sign up. And then once you've signed up, you're going to see a page that looks a little bit like this. What you can do here is either create your own notebook, or you can just go to the link in the description of the video and then click on the link that's going to allow you to download a copy of the file that I'll be using for this video. And once you click on that, you might see a page that looks something like this with basically 3 dots in the top right. It's going to look different because it's a different file, but hit the 3 dots in the top right and then just hit edit copy, and that will enable you to be able to start working in your own copy of the file. So this is the real file that we'll be working in today. What you're going to need is an interactive broker's account, because we want to do this with paper trading, and this is the brokerage firm that has the most notoriously well-known paper trading platform. And what paper trading is it's a way to basically have a fake portfolio where you simulate trades. So you're not risking your own real money, you're implementing some sort of strategy or trying out some trading strategy and seeing how it does without real money on the line. So the first step here is going to be to click this link, and you can find this either here or in the description, to sign up for an interactive broker's account. So I just held Control and then left clicked on it, and then this pops up. So what you're going to want to do is click open an account and then start application. So once you do that, you can just go through the basic steps. It's like opening any type of brokerage account. You don't actually have to put any money in, but you just need the account so that you can use the paper trading functionality. So it may take, depending on like when you actually do it, 1 to 2 business days to get approved, just as a side note. And then once you have the account, or even before then, you can start at least setting some stuff up. So we need their software called Trader Workstation, or TWS, and we need the API for that as well. So then you can hold Control and left click on this, and then we're going to have this page right here pop up. And this is all about the API for this software. The main things you're going to need to do are to scroll down and see where it says download Trader Workstation. Now you can click that, and then you'll see something pop up basically in your downloads after you download the latest one. So let's say I wanted to do TWS latest and hit download. Now that's going to pop up in my downloads on my computer, and then you can just run this installer and just click, next, apply essentially. And then what we can also do is go back to that same page that we were on before, and a little bit below where we downloaded the Trader Workstation, we need to keep scrolling to download the API software. So we get down to this section where it says download the TWS API, and you'll just do the same thing where you hit this, and then you'll hit I agree, and then depending on what type of system you have, I would just download the stable one for either Mac or Unix or Windows, whichever you have. So if you have Windows, you click there, and then you'll go through the same thing where you just click on that installer. It should be in your downloads on your computer, and hit next, apply essentially. Now once you've got Trader Workstation installed and the Trader Workstation API installed, and you've been approved for the account that you signed up for in this step, we're going to configure the Trader Workstation for the API access. And you can do that by following the steps that I've written out right here. So first, let's open up Trader Workstation. So I'm gonna click here and type TWS, and we see Trader Workstation pop up. I'll click on that. Now here you're going to see that you can either do live trading or paper trading. So you wanna make sure to click on the paper trading, and it should look red like this. And then you'll just type in your username and your password. When you log in, you should see something similar to this. So we'll just go ahead and click OK. And now we're just going to do a few steps to make sure that the API is looking correct. So let's go ahead and put these side by side just so we can see both steps while we're working on this thing. So we need to go up to Edit and then Global Configuration. And then once we get to global configuration, there's something right here called API. So we'll click on that, and then we'll go to settings. So now there's a few things we want to make sure that we have either checked or unchecked. So the first one is going to be this enable ActiveX socket clients. We want to make sure that this is checked. And then we want to make sure that we have unchecked read-only API. And then also we want to make sure that we have unchecked allow connections from localhost only, which you can see right down here. And then also we want to verify that this socket port right here is 7497, which is what we'll use for paper trading. So once you've got all that set, that should be pretty good. There's another thing we might want to do is that we might want to add some trusted IPs. So we're going to go to down here where it says trusted IPs and click create. And then you can just grab from here, this one here, copy it with Control-C, paste it in there and hit OK. I already put it in there, so I don't really need to put it in there twice. And then the other one that you'll do is this one right here as well with the same process. So you have both those trusted IPs. That'll make it so that we don't have to like approve every time we connect. It will just trust this system to connect to here. So now once we've done that, you can go ahead after you've made these changes, hit apply, and then you're going to have to restart Trader Workstation. So you'll just close out and re-log in the same way. Now, in order to get our Datalore cloud notebook, right? This isn't on our local computer, it's running in the cloud. In order to get it to connect to interactive brokers, we need to basically create some sort of tunnel on our own computer where we can connect the two. And so how we're going to do that is that if you're on Windows, you'll go into the search and look for command prompt. If you're on Mac, you'll look for terminal. So I'm on Windows, I'm going to type command prompt, and I'm going to pull that up. And then I'm going to grab this right here, hit Control-C, and I'm going to put it to right here and hit enter. So now that we see this green right here, forwarding TCP connections from, and basically we've created something that this system can access to connect to Trader Workstation here. Now let's go ahead on our next step and import some of the Python libraries that we're going to need to connect. We can see the two libraries that we need to import listed right here. So we need to import this one, Nest Asyncio, I guess is how you would pronounce that. Now let's hit Control-C on that. And then I'm gonna go right here to environment, and then I will paste it in there and hit enter. Now we're going to see this option here. I'm going to just click on this little download icon. So now we're installing that one. And then let's go and grab this one as well, IB in sync. All right, let's put it in there as well. Enter, and then let's download that one as well. Now that we've installed both, it wants us to restart the kernel. So let's go ahead and click restart kernel, which means it's just going to restart this whole notebook now that these packages are installed. So we should have everything that we need. From this point forward, we're going to allow Datalore's inbuilt AI assistant to write a bunch of code for us. So what we're going to do is be using these prompts that I've listed here to have it write the code. So now that everything's set up, we need to connect this software here to the Trader Workstation software. So what we can do is just take this prompt that I've already written here we'll copy that with Control C, and then this little icon is Ask AI. So we'll paste it in there and then we'll hit run. There we go, it wrote some code for us. Let's accept and run that and see how it does. Okay, so it looked like it had a few errors, and then finally it successfully connected to Trader Workstation. So if you did this step where you added these trusted IPs to Trader Workstation, you won't really see anything pop up over here. If you didn't do that step, you'll see a box pop up that you have to say, I approve of this connection happening. So now let's do another step where we want to basically see if it's working, and we're going to do that by trying to get the server in Trader or Interactive Brokers to tell us what time it is. So it's just a basic test to make sure that we've connected properly. Now let's run this prompt to have it write the code for us. Now let's accept and run that. Okay, it's successful, and it's giving us that UTC time, so we can see that we've got it properly configured already. Now the next prompt is going to have us just test a buy order for one share of the S&P 500 index SPY. So right now, if you look in my account, because I've been playing around and doing a lot of different stuff with it, I currently have a portfolio with just 92 shares of SPY, and there's nothing else actually in this portfolio. So if we have it correctly write this code and execute it, then we should be up to 93 shares of SPY. So let's take this prompt here, hit Control C, then go to the AI assistant and run that. So it wrote a lot of code, a bit more than I expected. We can see that basically it's trying to buy one SPY with a smart order method in USD, and it wants to buy one single share. And so then we're going to have some basically error catching or prints to see how it does. Let's accept and run. So we get an error that says that this IB object has no attribute market order. So then let's hit fix with AI and give it a chance to basically just correct itself. So it wrote some new code where basically it's now importing that market order from that library and rerunning. Okay, we see that it ran, and now I can see right here it popped up bought one SPY. So if I go back to here, now we should have gone from the 92 shares to the 93 shares, and yep, we're now at 93 shares. Now let's test if we can just sell that one share that we just bought so that we can go back down to 92 shares. So this is where we're going to have the AI write code to basically sell one of these shares. So the prompt is now let's close our position by selling the share we just bought. And so we're going to ask it basically to write that code and do some verification. So I'll copy that, then I'll hit this Ask AI, put the prompt in there, and then I'll run that. Now we'll hit accept and run. And now we can see it worked because it popped up down here. We sold one share of SPY, and we can also see that it printed it here. So if we come back, we can see that we went down from 93 back to 92. Now, this next step, we want to potentially retrieve historical stock prices from Interactive Brokers. So we're basically just going to be asking for 300 days of daily price history for SPY from Interactive Brokers. So this is just free data. Maybe we can build some strategy around that data, maybe in the future. So this free data is never going to be as useful, but it's a start if you don't want to pay any money. So let's grab that prompt, go to Ask AI, put the prompt in there, and then hit this run here. Now it wrote some code for us to grab basically 300 days of SPY shares. Now let's hit accept and run and see how that performs. Okay, perfect. We can see that it just printed the head there, which means it prints just 5 rows. So we've got 300 days of shares. For me, it's April 2nd right now. So 300 trading days would be about 3 months more than a year. So that's why it goes back to this point in time. Now we want to do something with this data. Let's say that we want to create some simple strategy, and I'll just read the prompt. So next we're going to say, now that we have our historical SPY data, let's implement a simple moving average crossover strategy. Please create code that calculates 20-day and 50-day moving averages, identifies buy and sell signals at crossover points, and visualizes the results with price history, moving averages, and signal markers on a chart. So let's grab this here, and once we see the chart, I'll kind of explain more what I'm meaning by this prompt. So let's run this one. So we can see it actually wrote quite a bit of code. So basically what it's going to do is take a 20-day moving average of the SPY prices, and then also a 50-day moving average of the SPY prices. And then it's going to say, hey, when the 20-day becomes larger than the 50-day, that's a buy signal. Basically, we're saying that if the average of the price in the last 20 days crosses over to be higher than the average of the price in the last 50 days, that means that the momentum is that this stock is basically pushing upward. The value is pushing upward. Let's buy it at that time. However, if the 20-day moving average becomes less than the 50-day moving average, that means that the momentum has then cooled off, the stock price is falling, and we want to basically catch the momentum of it decreasing by selling at that time. Let's see if this code actually works. So let's accept and run. Boom. That actually looks pretty good. So basically we can see that this 20-day moving average line is the green line, and then the 50-day moving average line is the red line. So at this point we can see that the 20-day fell below the 50-day, and then it's saying that would have been a time to have sold. And then now we can see there's this uptick in momentum where this 20-day right here crosses above the 50-day moving average, and then it's saying to buy at this time. So we would have bought at basically this price, this green triangle, which is I don't know, 530 bucks or something. And then we would wait to have sold until after the 20-day moves below the 50-day. So that's actually at this point. So you would have captured, I don't know, a small amount of profit at that point. But then it's telling you, hey, the 20-day crossed back above the 50-day here, buy here. Then eventually you wait till it crosses below again, sell there. So that would have been a netted a large profit. Anyways, I'm not really saying that this strategy, I did any back testing about it working. We're just doing something, simple to see if we can get this bot to connect properly and start doing some trades. So this is looking good so far. So now what we want to do is actually implement the strategy. So right now, all we did was make a graph based on past historical data. But what we want to do now is basically go ahead and try to implement a strategy so that it works into the future. And so I've created a prompt that's a little too long to read, but if you want to pause and read it, feel free to go ahead. Basically, we're just asking it to build this trading system. And so then let's go ahead and ask the AI and hit run. There we go. It wrote quite a bit of code for us. And so now it's basically putting in these rules into practice with actual buys and sells that connect to, we can see this IB connect here is connecting to our trader work system so that it would actually make trades based on this. So let's accept and run and see how it goes. So monitoring system is running. Use the stop event.set command to stop it safely. The system has stopped. So basically it started and then it stopped. So then this next one is where we're going to want to create code to basically run this system when we want to run it, right? So that we have more control over when it starts and stops. So we're saying, now let's create a simple demonstration of our trading system in action. Write a code cell that starts. Our monitoring system displays information messages to the user about what's happening, and optionally includes a way to automatically stop after a certain time period for demonstration purposes. This gives users a clear example of how to activate and control the automated trading system in a real-world scenario. So basically, it's probably going to write something where it's it'll just automatically, we'll start it and then it'll stop after a set amount of time, and we've kind of left it up to the AI to determine how long it's actually going to run this for. Okay, so it seems to have decided that it's just going to run this system for 600 seconds or 10 minutes. So let's accept and run that. And then we should see something where basically it's starting the system to run for 10 minutes. It seems to still be running even though this message said that it stopped. So let me just clarify something about this. So we've used free data, and generally free data is just going to be this information where we can see the day end prices like this. This is not going to be useful for a high frequency algorithmic trading system, because that would only give you the ability to basically make trades at the open of the day or the close. Like, it's basically giving you one piece of information every day. When you try to build some sort of like algo trading bot, you probably want live data that's happening almost every second for it to be more useful, so you can take advantage of price movement. So this is not super useful to build one that's based on this. But we would, if we wanted to actually use this one that we just did, you'd basically need to make sure that it's running when the new data comes in each night. Oh yeah, basically whenever the close data comes in, and then it has the opportunity to make one trade based on that. That's not really what I envisioned when I went out to try to create an algorithmic trading bot. What I really wanted to do was create one where I have data like every second happening, and then it's going to be making like trades in real time, you know? But that costs money. So this tutorial is going to continue, and we're going to use the live data, but it's just with basically the disclaimer that probably you're just going to watch from now on to see what I'm doing, because essentially this live data, I'm going to stop this, by the way, at this point. This live data is actually really not cheap. So I have basically a subscription for this service here that's like $200 a month, and the reason I'm using that is because it has a real-time data. So I'm going to be able to pull in data every second and start having the bot make decisions, and I can get unlimited data. So that's where we're going from here. So once we start using the real-time data, that's going to require a lot more computing power. Up until this point, we have been running, if I hit run here and then change machine, I've been using this CPU-L. It has 4 CPU cores and 16 gigabytes RAM. It's really weak. But in order to basically use a more powerful algorithm, I'm going to need to use more powerful hardware. And so what I'm probably going to do is bump it up to this like CPU XXL, which gives me 48 CPU cores and 96 gigabytes of RAM. So we can run basically a more powerful real-time algorithmic strategy. However, what you need for that is basically the account that allows you to do that. So when we were over on this page and you signed up for like the cloud free, you would be able to use these for more time, but only for 1 month. And then it would need to switch over to this cloud plan, where essentially then it starts to become more pricey. So this company, I've been partnering with them for nearly, or maybe even more than a year now. So they've actually hooked up my viewers with this Analyze Like Ryan promo code that just gives like 50% off for this cloud plan. I think either yearly or monthly billing. So then if you want to use that, then what we'll do at this point in the tutorial is we're going to switch this from this weaker machine to this more powerful machine so that we can start running more powerful strategies. Now, when we do that, it's going to reset this whole application in Kernal. So I'm going to need to go back up to the top, and I'm going to have to basically get reconnected. So I'm going to need to connect here again. One thing I've found when I disconnect and reconnect, it helps to just stop this instance here and restart it. So I'm going to hit Control-C twice to basically close that. Then I'm going to hover over this and Control-C and then Control-V to paste this. And then we're going to open up that connection one more time. And now let's rerun this. So we should connect again. So we can see that we've successfully connected. And then let's just test our connection to get server time. Boom, perfect. Now let's do one more test where we just test a buy order. There we go. We see that we bought down here in this bottom corner. And then we're going to test a sell order. So let's run that. But perfect. We see that we just sold one. So now we know we're all hooked up and connected. At this point, I'm gonna stop having the AI write the code and just use code that I've written because it's a little bit complicated. I have included some prompts beyond this point that people could use to have the AI write the code for them, or you can just use the code that I've already written. That would probably be easier because it did take a long time for me to get all of this stuff working. So basically with this, service here, you need an API key. I have my own API key that I'm putting in here. It's going to be blurred out on your screen. And then once we have the API key, that's how we get connected to the service. So I'm going to run that and I'm going to have it print my API key out just to confirm that we set it up correctly. And then the next thing, we're going to basically start importing some packages and that we actually need to connect to Polygon, right? So we need to connect so we can get their live data. And that's where some of these things are going to be coming into play. So let's run that. And we can see that we have imported all of the libraries successfully. Now we're going to set up basically what we're going to use as a data structure to take our data in from the Polygon API. And so we'll run this and it should print that we have set it up successfully. That's perfect. And now here we're going to generate some logic. So think about what we were doing earlier. We were basically running this strategy that was going to be every 20 days and 50 days. And then we're trying to sell on momentum of these days or buy on the momentum of these days. So what we're going to do with this strategy with Polygon is actually, instead of doing it in days, we're going to do it every 20 and 50 seconds. So we're going to try to capture these super short-term movements in the stock price over 20 and 50 seconds and basically run the same strat. So if the 20-second moving average crosses above the 50-second moving average, that's an upward momentum signal and we're going to buy. Whereas if the 20-second moving average falls below the 50-second moving average, that is a sell signal because the momentum is decreasing. Again, I have not back tested these strategies. I have no idea if they would actually work. This for me is just a proof of concept of whether I can actually configure a bot that will do real-time trading in a paper trading account. So let's now create basically this logic of what I just described in code. Everything I just said, we're trying to put it into code right now. And perfect. This shows us that we set everything up properly. Now here we're going to write a WebSocket callback function for Polygon IO. On message, on air, on close, on open, that will process incoming trade data, authenticate our API key, and subscribe to SPY ticker data. So this is really where we're trying to connect everything to Polygon. And I added a little note that while you could try this prompt, it's unlikely that the AI is just going to one-shot all this code because it's kind of a lot of code and it is a bit complicated. So now let's run that. And now we can see that we have this little message at the bottom, Polygon WebSocket thread started. And then on my actual Polygon account, I can go into the backend and go here to usage WebSocket. And I can see that we now have one active WebSocket connection that's been happening for about a minute and it has not disconnected. So we are connected. That is great. Now that we've connected, let's create basically a visualization function. So the prompt that you could use for this is create a function to visualize our real-time trading data, including price chart, moving averages, and buy and sell signals. The function should update periodically as new data arrives. So what we're doing is we're taking those 20-second, 50-second moving averages, and we're going to just live run them so that we can see how is it basically going to, in real time, generate these buy and sell signals. So this is just going to create a function. It's not actually going to run it yet. We're just creating this little algorithm that's going to display how our trading strategy is looking. So let's go ahead and let's run that. And then right here, we're going to have to actually create a function that's going to make this whole system start when we actually do want it to start, including connect to Polygon. So you can use this prompt to basically generate this type of code. It's fairly straightforward. And then let's run this function. So we just ran that. Now this is going to be the most complicated thing of the whole algorithm. I can't even... It took me a really long time to get all this to work. So I did give a prompt that, you could use to get something to generate something like this. But what I would say is that it is super unlikely that AI would one-shot this code. And what I mean by one-shot is write it all this way in one single try. there's just too much code here and it's a little bit too complicated. So it took me quite a while working with the AI through basically an iterative process where I have it write code. It tries to write code, it fails. We talk about why it failed, then have it try to go again, and just over and over and over until I got something that actually works. So essentially what we're going to be doing here is we're going to want to execute trades. So we're saying execute trades false. So we don't want it to actually execute trades in real time yet. We will get to that. That's when we'll change this to true, but for now it's false. And then this is position size. So this would be the number of shares that we're going to trade. So we're just going to trade one share of SPY at a time. We could up this to 10 shares or 20 shares or whatever, but just as an example, let's stick to one. And then we're also going to say the max number of positions allowed. Right now we could say it's 5. We don't want it to trade more than 5, whatever. Maybe I'll up it to 10. It's not going to make any more than 10 trades on this algorithm. And then we have a cooldown period of 10 seconds between trades. So basically, if we make one trade and then it has another buy or sell signal, it's not allowed to trade until after 10 seconds. So then once we've done all that, now there's going to be some complicated functions where one is we're basically connecting two, interactive brokers. Another is going to be used to update our current position. Another is going to use to be execute whether we should make a trade based on the signal of that, the 20-second moving average crossing above or below the 50-second moving average. And then the most complicated function of all is this start trading listener, which is basically going to be a separate thread used to monitor for trading signals. And it has all the logic in there of whether we want to basically make buys or sell orders. And this one's quite complicated. So if you want to try something like this, you might want to just copy my code rather than trying to write it yourself. So let's run this. And now here's where we're actually going to start a visualization of this whole strategy that we've created. This isn't going to actually execute any trades. It's just going to show the system working in real time with live every second data. So let's go ahead and run that. So now it's creating a graph. And what's going to happen is it's going to get a little bit more data and the graph will start to make a bit more sense and it'll refresh in a second here. Okay, there we go. So we're basically going to see, and there's some, I would say some issues with the data in terms of some spikes and falls. So we're seeing when the spikes are with this price. So I think one thing you could do to basically make the algorithm more accurate would be to have something that detects when these spikes come in that likely is inaccurate SPY pricing. But aside from that, so we're seeing this 20-second moving average is the green line, and then the 50-second moving average is the red line, and then it's doing the same thing. When we see a crossover, green crosses above red, that's a buy signal. When red crosses above green, that's a sell signal. And then so it's just going to operate like that. So now we can do something where we're going to actually set it up so that we enable it to execute live trades. So we're switching from false to true for executing the trades. And you could use this prompt to write some code like this. So let's run that. And now one thing that you should do, which I've already done, is that you can go and to run, and then where it has this background computation, it's usually set to different, I forget what the default is, but I changed it to never turn off. So if I want to basically just keep running the system so it doesn't just automatically turn off, I'm making that logic so there. And now this is where we're actually going to start the system. So we're telling it to write a Python code that starts a background thread to run start trading listener function continuously. Ensure it doesn't block the main thread. Also print a message showing whether auto trading is enabled based on the value of a global variable execute trades. So this code is going to start running it. So what I want to do now is actually put this up side by side so we can see our trader workstation actually running here. And so let's just run this thing. And now we can see we started running it and we just sold one share of SPY. So it went from 92 down to 91. Now it's going to have that cool down period of 10 seconds where it can't make any trades until it gets another signal about whether it should actually buy or sell. So we see it just got another sell signal. So we just sold one. So we went from 91 all the way down to 90. So our system is properly working. It took quite a while for me to get this working. Okay, then we just sold another. So this price must be falling right now. This makes me happy. You know, I stand like a proud dad watching his only son that made it. And we'll see if this could actually generate profits. One thing I'm thinking is that this likely will not generate profits. One thing I might go ahead and just stop this system for a second. We can just talk about what actually happened. So I'll do run, and then we can just stop machine. So that'll just stop everything. And now we can go look at our trade history, and we can see that it was making these. We did 3 trades on this, where they basically traded. One traded 17 seconds after the other one, and the other one waited the 10-second cooldown period, then had a signal after 11 seconds. So one thing I'd like to clarify is that basically this commission is like $1.02 per sell. And so with this type of strategy, it would not be feasible on small volume. So this would be basically guaranteed to lose money. Well, why is that? Because we're trading something that's only worth $559.74. And then we're like doing these quick buys and sells. And every time we do it, we lose $1, which is basically going to be like an immediate loss of like 0.2%. So this is something where you would have to really increase the order size. So you'd have to do it in much larger volumes if the commission is $1. So you'd have to basically back test and make sure that based on this logic that the trades that you're making are generally netting you a profit that's larger than that commission. With this system that I just built where we're only trading one single stock and the commission is that high for that one share, you're super unlikely to be able to generate a profit that way. This was really just a proof of concept for something like this. I wanted to be able to see if I could write rules, have a bot that connects to a cloud machine that's powerful enough to operate a real-time trading strategy, and then get it to generate trades based on that. The next step that I want to look at is basically seeing if there's things that I can implement in a paper trading account, trying different rules, and see if they could possibly net a profit. And so one thing I might even think about doing in the future is that this software has these like super powerful machines with these like NVIDIA Tensor Core machines that are used for super advanced AI machine learning models. And I want to get some data and see if I can actually use AI models to try to come up with some strategy that might be able to net some profit. And then based on these strategies, try to run it in the paper trading account and see what actually happens. And if I actually find something that really does work, then take some of my actual real money, put it into a real brokerage account, and then run that strategy to try to generate real profit. There's a few steps between now and then, but I have some goals in mind for this, and maybe I can update with a video in the future if I actually, find some time to play around with this and see what's possible. Thank you for watching this video, and if you'd like to see a video where I use this same tool to use code to backtest a trading strategy, feel free to click right here.